Tampa General Hospital and USF Health, Morsani College of Medicine are bringing the power of academic medicine to Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast. For nearly 2 decades, Tampa General has been ranked as one of the nation's best hospitals. And for over 50 years, Tampa General has been Florida's leading academic health system. Learn more about their growing network of physicians at tgh.org/the Palm Beaches. So welcome back to the Palm Beach North podcast. I'm your host, Noel Martinez, and oh my goodness, I couldn't think of a better time than to have our Supervisor of Elections here, Wendy Link, with us to talk about all things elections, right? We got something big going on coming up. So Wendy, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can talk elections all day long. Well, so let's go.
All right. So before we get to elections, I really want people to get to know you a little bit. So let's start with that. Talk to me a little bit about your background. I know you are a Palm Beach North girl, right? You're right from our backyard. So
I'm definitely living in Palm Beach North now. I actually was born and raised in Palm Beach County with a couple of years here and there where I was gone, but I went to public schools. Elementary, middle, and high school here. John I. Leonard High School was my high school. So I'm a Leonard Lancer. And then I did go off to college and law school in North Carolina. Went to UNC Chapel Hill for undergrad and then to Duke for law school. Following that, I moved out to California and worked in Los Angeles for 5 years just to try something different, and was in business law there. And came back here 5 years later. Joined Gunster Law Firm, later had our own law firm for over 20 years, and one day got a call to do something else. All
right, we're gonna get to that call. Let's talk a little bit about your family. So I know you have 3 boys that you're very, very proud of.
I am. I've got twins that are going to be 26 here right this week. I've got a 19-year-old. The twins are out of grad school. Well, one's out of grad school. He's working in DC. And he is working for Raytheon and couldn't be happier, living his best life in communications. My other son is in grad school. He's getting his doctorate in computer engineering from University of Florida. And my youngest is at USF playing baseball.
And so your family has, as far back as I can remember, I've heard that your whole family's, all of them are engaged in the community, including your father. Right? Your father did a lot in the community. So talk to us a little bit about your dad.
Yeah. So my dad, as long as I can remember, was always very, very, very involved in the community at a young age. He started the JCs. He actually started the Pathfinder Award, even at the Post. He was, when he passed, he had been the president of the Palm Beach Post. And I remember back when the Post was the Palm Beach Post is the morning, the evening was the Evening Times. They had a shopping bee. They had a shopping thing that was on the weekends. So it was, it was all papers. It was a larger paper at the time, and was just very involved in the community, from chambers, United Way, Red Cross, Blood Bank, Economic Council. He was just very involved in the community.
And then you guys both, we talked about it earlier, you both chaired the first father-daughter duo to chair a chamber, correct?
Right. We chaired both of us, the Chamber of Commerce of the Palm Beaches. He was a chair, and he actually swore me in. And then later, he was also chair of the Economic Council, and I had the privilege of being a chair as well. So I think we're only father-daughter combo there as well.
Yeah, it's a great, great story. So, all right, we touched on it. 2019 comes around, right? So here you are. You're a business attorney involved in the community, staying busy doing all these things. And all of a sudden, the governor picks up the phone and calls you and says, hey, you're going to be our supervisor of elections. How did that go? Is that no?
That's close. Actually, somebody from his staff who called and said, what do you think about being supervisor of elections? And truly, I'm thinking, don't think you meant to call me. I had been a voter and had been an advocate for voting in that. My law firm my partners and I, we were not all the same party. And so, but we all believed in the importance of voting. So we would give people time off to vote, and we would do voter registration drives in our firm. But really, I was not involved politically. And so after questioning, are you sure me? Initially, I didn't think it was a good idea. I didn't have the right background. And but then after a couple of conversations with his staff, they asked me to go up to see the governor, where he ended up talking to me and saying, it's really about community service. Yes, I understand you make more money in being an attorney than you will in this position. But, at the time he did tell me I'd be able to continue my legal practice. And legally I could. There just isn't time.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, as a practical matter, it's not the case. But at the beginning, we thought I might be able to do that.
So for people that don't know, what are the primary responsibilities of the supervisor of elections?
So really all things elections, as opposed to other states where there are different groups or different offices that will cover different parts of an election. In Florida, the supervisor of election does everything. So we're going to start with, of course, voter registration, getting people to register to vote. We've got to do the voter rolls, maintaining the voter rolls, making sure that they're up to date. We are going to be having to do recruit poll workers and train poll workers, finding locations for people to vote, getting the whole logistical side of getting the equipment out. We got to have an election in a box, to go to 400 locations on election day, getting those routes, all the logistics for that, making sure that we've got purchasing, maintaining equipment, all the technology that goes, staying up to date on the technology, cybersecurity. There's just a lot. And then making sure, of course, that people are going to be able to vote, that their vote is going to count as they intended it to, getting the results out quickly, and then doing all of the audits and the things that follow it. So there's a lot more to it than people think.
So what does a typical day look like for you? I know you have a lot of early mornings and late nights.
Right.
You're talking about the upcoming election all day long. I see you on TV all the time.
Right.
So what does a typical day look like for Wendy Link?
Usually it's meeting after meeting after meeting, whether it's internally with my staff or out with the public doing voter education. I think already we've done well over 1,600 hours of voter outreach this year. So we're always out trying to work with the public, make sure they are able to ask the questions that they have and answer them. We're doing tours of the office. Right now we're just moved into an office, so they're still doing some construction. So we haven't yet been able to do that, but we're always trying to promote people coming in. So my day is really generally coming in, seeing what's on the agenda. It's usually going to be a lot of meetings. I usually can't get to my email till late in the day or early in the evening. Try to get those emails and phone calls returned by the end of the night before it gets too late. But yeah, a lot of poll worker training, staff meetings, figuring out early voting sites, things like that.
So let's go back to 2019, because I'm sure when you came on board, there was some probably really big challenges going on.
Right.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how you overcame them?
Sure. So 2019, the office had come off of a difficult 2018 election, and there were a number of recounts, and the equipment was old and really wasn't ready for that kind of for that number of recounts. So came in, realized that we were having some difficulty with proper procedures being in place. The equipment was antiquated, so needed to get new equipment. Also realized that our voter registration database that we had and the program we were using for that wasn't what it needed to be heading into a presidential election. It didn't have the cybersecurity protocols and the safety that it needed. So realized we actually had to change our voter registration, which is really the basis for everything we do. So that was a huge major change that I was asking our team to get behind. This is supposed to be a quote easy year for you, 2019, where you catch your breath before you go into 2020, and they didn't get to do any of that.
So, managing elections are obviously could be very, very complex. So talk to me a little bit about the process of preparing for a major election like this. And really, we have such a diverse county, right? So talk to me a little bit about that and how you manage that.
It starts with, you got to have a budget, right? So our budget comes from the county. So we go to the county, we figure out what is our budget going to be on an election year. It's going to be different than a non-election year.
So do you submit a budget, or do they
Right.
tell you this is what you have to spend? This is what you have.
We submit a proposal. So we submit a budget proposal with all the backup data to the county administrator and her team. They will review it. We'll discuss why we need this or that. They'll tell us that, we don't really have the money for that, can't have that many more people, just like every other department. You put down what you need, and then we come to an agreement on what's going to work and the same when we can. Like this year, going into a presidential election, typically we would have an increased budget. We actually decreased our budget significantly because we didn't have any major purchases we had to do this time. We've already bought the new equipment. We've now moved our building. So all of the moving expenses have come. So we actually were able to decrease our budget. And that's important to us to, when we can, to bring it down, even though, and so it means our budget's going to be very cyclical, depending upon what kind of year it is.
So you've touched on this a few different times, election security, right? That's a top concern right now. Everybody's talking about it. How does Palm Beach County ensure that the integrity and security of its elections, especially with all the changes in technology right now? What are we doing to keep up with that?
So we really, we're looking at cybersecurity, right? That's, when you talk about election security, you got to talk about cybersecurity. And so we have, invested in a lot of programs, a lot of database protections and things like that. Physical security is a huge part of cybersecurity. So making sure that we have badge access into all of the parts of our office, and only people who need to be in a certain room are in that room. Actually right now with the election going on, I don't get into all parts of it even because I don't need to be in every room. So we're trying to do that. We're also looking at, just all the things that are built into the law. For example, vote by mail. When you ask for a vote by mail ballot, you have to ask for it. Right? You're going to request it. We don't just send it out to everybody. And when you request it, we're asking for your name, your birth date, your address, and either your last four of your social or your Florida driver's license or Florida ID. So we know that this is you making that request. And then we're going to recommend that you track that ballot, right? Whether you're doing it through one of our programs called Ballot Tracks, or whether you're going to do that through just going online and tracking, because we want you to have that control. We want you to know, wait a minute, I haven't heard they got my ballot yet, so I can track that. So we know we got your vote. We're going to, we also, when we're doing on election day, right, we're going to transmit those, votes from the tabulator back to our office through a private secure modem. So people say, well, how do you know that it didn't get changed in transmission, right? Well, there's a lot of things that are built into that. It's doubly encrypted. You're on for a very short amount of time, but nobody's going to say that you're better than the bad guys. Hopefully you are. But we print a results tape. And that results tape is going to be, we're going to print 2 copies. First one, we're going to put right out for the public to see immediately. Okay. Polls have closed. Here's the tape. This is the results from this tabulation.
Is that considered like the unofficial results?
Right. Yeah. Okay. From that tabulator. And so if we have 2 tabulators a location, you're going to have 2 tapes. And so we're putting that out for the public to see immediately before we have connected to any modems. The second version of that tape comes back to our office after the tabulation of the results, and they've modemed them to us. Before those become official, we take that results tape and we compare what was on that tape before, when it was only hooked up to electricity, to what was actually received by us in that transmission, to make sure that it's exactly the same. If it's not, and it always has been, but if it were not to be, Florida's a paper ballot state. So we can now go back to those actual ballots, and we would notify people, that we're going to publicly do this, retabulation of these ballots in a public forum if there was ever that problem.
In a public forum, yeah, I've heard of that happening where the candidates end up showing up because they want to supervise watching the votes being counted, which is probably crazy scene. I can only imagine.
Yeah, well, no, it's open to everybody, which is, once we have our logic and accuracy test, then we're able to start processing vote by mail ballots. We do not know the results, right, as we're doing it. It just tells us how many ballots it has processed. So we know that because we have to do ballot counting forms and keep track of that. But people can come watch us open the ballots. They can come watch us tabulate them. We don't ever do that without it being publicly noticed.
Yep.
So that the public can come and watch that happen.
So Palm Beach County is huge, right?
Right.
It's a big county.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some logistical issues there, right?
Sure.
What are some of the challenges that you guys face?
From
the
size,
yes.
right? Well, part of it is, like I said, we're larger than Delaware and Rhode Island, right? So just physically, we're huge. So when we're talking about finding polling locations, right? You're trying to get polling locations everywhere. We've got to run, truck routes. We rent moving trucks, right? And we got to get those truck routes out to all of the places in a very short amount of time, and get them back quickly as well. And you've also, and then getting those poll workers in and trained, because we can't just always do it at our office. We need to go to where the poll workers are often, so that we can help them, so that, those who can't get all the way in, say from Belle Glade to do training, we need to go there to be accessible to them. We'll do the same thing North County and South County. So, a lot of it's just trying to get to where people are. And then it's, when at the end of the night, it's week to physically get those ballots back from, whether it's Pahokee, Belle Glade, Boca, back to our office. It just takes time.
Do you have a family history of breast cancer? If so, your personal risk of breast cancer may be significantly higher than the general public, and you may be a candidate for increased screening and prevention. According to the American Cancer Society, breast cancer is the most common cancer in U.S. women. More than 300,000 new cases are diagnosed annually. The average woman has a 12% chance of developing breast cancer in her lifetime. But if you have a family history, this number could be much higher. Since October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I encourage anyone with risk factors for breast cancer to get an assessment early. If you're at risk, a routine mammogram is not enough. Our high-risk breast clinic can help you determine your risk and take action.
This Medical Minute is brought to you by Tampa General Hospital and USF Health Morsani College of Medicine at the University of South Florida. Learn more at tgh.org/the Palm Beaches. Yeah.
Oh, there's miles there. We don't have a helicopter yet.
Not yet. But maybe next budget. We'll put it in there in the next budget.
I'm sure they'll jump right on that.
All right, forget those challenges. Let's talk about some stuff that we're really proud of. So what are you most proud of that you guys have accomplished here, during this election cycle so far?
Yeah, so I think we've got, we've become an award-winning office, right? Because we have a great team that will sit together after each election and look at what went well and what could we do better. And with either more time or more money to plan, what would we do to even make it better? Our whole focus is on safety, security, transparency, and the voter's experience. So we'll look at that, and we've been very innovative in that. And it's led to us winning, like I said, national awards for it. So I think we've been able to make Palm Beach County proud. And our early voting appointments is an example. That's something that we were the first in the country to do that.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
You take that kind of stuff for granted. I didn't realize.
Yeah, we're the first. In fact, I'm not even sure how many people are doing it because it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I can tell you right now, we have close to 3,000 people have already made an appointment for early voting for this presidential election. And what we find is when people make an appointment, 95% or more will keep that appointment. Because it's just now part of their day. We're going to send them a text reminding them about it too. So it really helps people from all walks of life. We'll have elderly people say, I can't stand out there for 3 hours in the heat or the sun. People who with some disabilities, that's difficult for them. We have other folks who say, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a business owner. I can't be away from my office or from my business for that amount of time. So having this appointment has allowed me to use early voting. And so that's fantastic. We love when things like that happen. Having on the flip side, if you want to stand in line and visit with your neighbors, and we hear a lot of people say, oh, I love the lines for early voting because I get to talk to my friends and neighbors. Great, you can still do that.
So people love that. I'm not that guy. Yeah, I like to mail in my ballot.
Right, but it's easy. And then for mail-in ballots, one of the things we've done is we have prepaid postage. So that again, it's not just who can afford the postage. It's also how many times do you have $1.67 in stamps laying around, right? And you don't know how much it is, and you got to go find it. So now we've got the prepaid postage. We budgeted for that. The county commission has accepted that. And now you get your ballot, you fill it out, you can get it immediately back in. So you're going to get it into us faster. We're going to process it faster. If you forgot to sign your name or your signature doesn't match, we now have more time to reach out to you so that you can correct that. Right? So a lot of things that are going to make voting better and easier for people.
Talk to me about voter engagement, right? Because that is key. What has your office done to get people to get out and vote?
So as I mentioned, we do a lot of voter outreach where we're giving people voter education. We're talking about different ways to vote. We really promote these are the 3 ways you can vote. What works for you? You mentioned you like vote by mail. A lot of our folks do because of the ease of it and the fact that you get it so early and you can take the time and do it. Other people say, no, I really like to be in person. And so now we've increased the number of early voting locations so that it can be easier for you to vote in person if you want to do early voting. And then on election day, same thing. We've tried to increase the number of polling locations where we can. We also do, we've increased the number of poll workers at that polling location so that we can get the lines through faster and try to do things. We'll make sure, hey, did you look at your sample ballot? Do you need to read these? We've got 6 amendments plus a county question on this one. If you haven't had a chance to read them, here, I got a nice laminated sheet. Take a look at these while you're in line so when you can get in, we can get that line moving faster. So we just tried to do a lot of things to make voting easy for people. And with that outreach, like I said, increased number of locations, increased number of hours. We're open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for early voting even. And so just trying to make life easier for a voter.
So you can't do everything by yourself, right?
No,
so,
I got an amazing team.
Talk to me about your team. How big is your team? What does that look like?
It depends on what day it is. So we have about 84 permanent positions.
Full-time
right,
staff members.
that we're able to have. And, again, it depends on, where we are with who's been hired and not. Then during an election period, I'll have, for a long period of time, probably 200 temporary staff members at any given time doing something. And then on election day, we'll have over 5,000 because poll workers are employees since they're paid positions. And so we have to do payroll for all of them and process that. So really, if you think about anything you would do in a business, we're doing, we've got payroll, we've got 5,000, we have 5,000 one-day workers, for every election. And so we're doing the training of our staff just like anybody else would. And we've got, we're focused on cybersecurity. I've got an IT team. With us, our product is ballots and voting. So, we're going to have voter services, vote by mail, poll worker departments. So, we're promoting and dealing with building issues just like a company would have.
What about other like county agencies and state agencies? How do you work with them? And what does that partnership look like?
Right. So we work very closely with, for the cybersecurity and things, we work with the FBI, we work with the Department of Homeland Security, we work with state cyber navigators, and we are meeting with them or speaking with them on a very regular basis. At the state level, we work very closely with this Department of State, the Secretary of State, and the Division of Elections. We're working always, to make sure that things are consistent across the state. Within our county, we're working, of course, with the county commission and the county administrator very closely, but we also will work with other constitutional officers. We deal a lot with the sheriff's department, but we'll work with the tax collector, with a property appraiser. Maybe they're going to be sending out a mailer and they can put information that would help voters on it. Or we can make our building, if we're not using our building for something, if we've got rooms in our building, whether it's a training room or a multi-purpose room, when we're out of this election cycle, we're going to invite the public in, please come work with us and see and use our facilities, because we want to be here to encourage people to know where that elections office is. What does it have to offer? What can I do here? What kind of transparency is there in the process that I can watch?
So the election, it's November, it's the end of the election. November 5th. Yeah. November 5th. Let's go. November 6th. You wake up in the morning, you're probably going to be exhausted and you're going to have your cup of coffee in your hand and you're going to be like, wow, that was a success.
Right.
What does that look like?
So the success looks like that were able to get through without any cyber issues. That we were able to hopefully get the lines moving as quickly as we can. That people felt like they were able to vote the ballot the way they intended to vote it. Their vote was counted accurately. We're able to get the results out in a reasonable amount of time. Of course, we aim to be as quick as possible. So we're feeling good about that. But unfortunately, on November 6th, what I'm doing is I'm jumping into all the provisional ballots. Everybody who had to vote a provisional ballot for one reason or another, we're researching those so that we can have that ready for the canvassing board. We're also getting ready for who had mistakes on their signatures. Either they forgot to sign or their signature didn't match, and they have until Thursday at 5 to do that signature cure. So we're gonna anybody who may have a recount, or we're looking, do we have a recount going on? If we do, we're getting all ready for the recount. So we don't get to rest quite.
When does this process end? Does it ever end?
Yeah, so it goes for about 10 days following a presidential election, because if you are military and overseas,
okay,
your ballot has to be postmarked by election day, but it has 10 days to get in. All right, that's not the case. I want to be very clear. That's not the case for our domestic voters. Domestic voters, their ballot has to be received by 7 o'clock on election night. It has to be in our office by 7 on election night. But for the overseas voters during a presidential election, we've got 10 days to do that. You're doing the signature cures. You've got, like I say, you've got recounts. So for that, after about the 10th day, it's starting to calm down. And then we have an incredible amount of reporting that has to be done to the state and to the federal government following every election. So then we're really working on all those reports.
So what does the future of elections look like? Like, how is technology going to change that?
There's so much interesting technology out there, and it's really going to be a matter of what do we as an American society, right? The citizens of the United States of America, what are we looking for? And I say that, for example, I've been to recent technology conference and where other countries were there. And one of the things that they're looking at is they use biometrics as a big part. So certainly, does biometrics work to help make sure to protect that security of your vote and who's voting? It absolutely does. But it also means that I've got your thumbprint on file or your iris scan, right? So what are our citizens going to find acceptable, and where are you going to look at that? So there's a lot with that. A lot of people ask me, what about voting on my phone, right? And there are places where they do that.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, not in the United States.
Okay, I was going to say,
not in the United States.
All right.
But that technology exists, and we just we've got to look at it and determine, is it secure enough for us, and what you would have to do to ensure that somebody was only voting once. Is that going to maybe impinge on the confidentiality of their vote, right? Because one of the things that we hold very dear in our country is that secret ballot, right? And not every country has the same focus on a secret ballot that we do.
So we're getting here low on time here, but tell me a little bit about, what kind of advice would you give someone that would aspire to be Wendy Link? Supervisor of elections.
If you want to be the supervisor of elections.
If you want to be Wendy Link, you have to be very cool, right? But if you want to be the supervisor of elections.
Supervisor of elections, you have to have a lot of patience. You have to have a lot of energy. I'd say really, truly engage in the process early, right? Start to understand how our voting process works. We have a lot of opportunities. We have an internship program for high school seniors and for college students. It's a paid internship program. Do our internship program. Be a poll worker. See what's involved in being involved in elections. And so that you can even have your ideas for what do you think works? What do you think doesn't work? So that you can be prepared when you get into office to make the changes that you think are necessary.
What can we do to help? What can the business community or the community as a whole, what can we do to help?
We will always need more poll workers, more qualified poll workers. What we're finding is the people who really took it to heart, right? Those folks are aging out. A lot of our poll workers now say, I've been a poll worker for 20 years, for 30 years. It's near and dear to my heart. I can't work a 14-hour day anymore, right? And it's just too much and it's too long. So we need to start replenishing that. And what I tell all the businesses, if every business were giving one person, right, then I would have a lot of really good qualified poll workers. And, if Palm Beach County wants to be the top, and if we want to be what people look at is they've got the best trained poll workers, they are people who are smart, they know what they're doing, then it's going to take people coming in and being willing to say, I'm going to adopt a precinct. My business or my organization we're going to work together. We'll adopt your entire precinct. And we can do that for you. We can work with this Adopt a Precinct program. It's a great way to have for your organization to raise money, to give up for your business, to give back to the community. But again, if you're not able to do that, I get it. But most businesses can give us one person.
Yeah.
Right. And just give us one person and we'll make them a poll worker and we'll help them. The other is just help us get out accurate information. Give your employees time off to vote. It's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is when we're open. So make sure that they know they can get there early, they can get there late. So, just helping us to promote when voting is, getting folks out there, and let us do voter registration drives. If you have a big company that you feel like maybe some of your folks aren't registered, let us do that voter registration drive for you. We're here to assist anybody in any way that we can.
What's the most important thing? As my chair just fell down.
You just went flop.
What is the most important
you want me to
thing?
bring mine down too, that I'm able to
feel better?
Yeah. There you go.
So what is the most important thing that Palm Beach County voters know going into the election here on November 5th?
So what we want, you're trying to bring it back up.
Let's go back. I told you some funny stuff will happen.
Yeah. All right. So what voters need to do, they need to check their polling location, right? Nothing will make a voter more unhappy than they go to the wrong polling location, stand in line, only to find out this isn't where they're supposed to vote. So check your polling location. They change. We had a lot of polling locations cancel and decide they could not be a polling location for this election, whether it's because of the types of amendments we have. They didn't want campaigners around. A lot of our gated communities have said, don't want people coming into our gated community any longer. So for a lot of reasons, polling locations have canceled and changed. So please check your polling location, bring your ID, right? You need to have your photo and signature ID. We've got a whole list of all the things that can be done right on our website. There's a lot more than just your driver's license or your passport. There's a lot of things you can put together. If you don't have ID, you will be allowed to vote, but it'll be a provisional ballot where we have to go through and do further investigation to make sure that you are who you say you are, and that you haven't already voted. So I would say, know where you're going. Make sure you've looked at your ballot ahead of time. We have 12 races plus 7 questions on our smallest ballot and 19 races plus the 7 questions on our longest ballot. So it's just a lot of things. And so the quicker you can get through that process, the shorter the lines are going to be, because we don't want anybody to be frustrated that they're in line too long.
Great. Anything we've missed? Anything that we haven't touched on? Where can people get more information?
So go to our website, which is votepalmbeach.gov. So if you go to the website, we've got all kinds of things. Our search bar is great. You're not sure where to find things, go to the search bar. Call our office. We've got, a phone bank ready to go. We've got a lot of people. So 656-6200, 561 area code is the number to call our office. We're going to be able to answer your questions for you. You can also info@votepalmbeach.gov. You can email us. So we want to be there because we want to make sure that we're giving you accurate information so that we're not fighting the misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. We want you to have the accurate information. So hopefully you're going to get a lot of mail from us. It always says official election mail, so please don't throw it away. It's going to have something on there that's going to give you the most accurate information to offset anything that's out there that could be wrong.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much for being here today. You were great. Tons of great information. I learned a lot today. So thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate it. We appreciate the opportunity to talk to all your viewers.
Awesome. Well, that's all we have for you today. Thank you again for tuning into the Palm Beach North podcast. We look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. See you soon. Thanks so much.